Look, I know in the media we get all excited about round numbers, but down to now just about 2.8 trillion. And you really wonder, what changed? Was it a Fed pivot on Wednesday that made us all sort of rethink how we're looking at technology stocks?
Yeah, I think so. And I think that there's also a belief that what we're seeing through the rest of the year is that since volumes are probably going to be a little bit lower, that if you're caught in sort of a shorter position, we're expecting to see a little bit of a melt up. And we expect that actually to continue into the first half of next year as well.
How much of that, though, is fundamentally based? Is it iPhones? Is it, software revenue? What is it?
Well, the longer term, let's call it 2022, business looks actually very good. But right now, it seems like the supply chain issues are going to probably hold things back a little bit for the report in the December quarter in January. So we think that from a fundamental standpoint, it's a touch mixed. It's still going to be good in the medium to long term, but right now I think that what we're seeing in the supply chain from our measurements of components is that Apple can't get enough. And so they can't get enough product out the door. And even though it doesn't appear that way if you go and look in different stores for different models, they're still having trouble getting the product that they want. We think that it's going to end up being between 10 and 15 million units light for where they were expecting.
Okay. But then what was the comment from Apple to its suppliers telling them to hold back?
Yeah, because what you're seeing is there's a lot of different components. And so when Apple says hold back the components, that doesn't mean what we expect is that they have some components that are short, but not all components. So you're hearing the reports from a lot of the component suppliers into Apple that they want you to hold back because they don't need as many, for instance, iPhone cameras or batteries and this types of things that are not in shortage, but things like power management and some of the advanced A15 processors from TSMC, those are in shortage. So that's kind of what we're seeing. So you can hear both things out of the supply chain. They both can be true, but Apple could still come up a little bit short in units. Now, don't forget, they're not going to report that. We're still trying to guess that, right? Apple doesn't get those numbers anymore. So this is all what you can measure.
Well, you're doing your supply chain checks, we know, and poking around to some of those suppliers. Let's talk about that supply chain, because Apple has done a very good job of, if anyone can control their supply chain, it's Apple. What do you make of further reports of making more items in-house to maybe cut out some suppliers?
Yeah, so first of all, you were right. Tim Cook is the supply chain ninja. I mean, he is the master at this. And this is really what he did even before being CEO, and is why he's CEO. So we really think that, if anybody has a good grip on this, Apple has a good grip on it. And don't forget, they're such a big customer that they can kind of push their suppliers around a little bit. But they are bringing some things in-house. And I think what they're doing is they're bringing things in-house where they think that they can add extra value. Because don't forget, they have a lot of cash. They have a lot of technology and IP that they own, so they can kind of go and apply this. So, for instance, for moving to designing their own processors, and now they're designing their own processors for the Mac, et cetera, they think that they have something that they can bring to the table that the typical x86 processors that Intel and AMD are making aren't really quite doing the job. They're looking for something a little bit different that has a little bit more power management built in, more cores, and a little bit better for image and video and media processing. So they're really sort of custom designing their chips for their specific applications, even at the Mac level, not just at the iPhone level. So that type of thing, we see them continuing to do. But there's a lot of parts and casings and that type of thing that Apple's just going to continue to buy from the supply chain. They clearly don't want to build a lot of factories themselves, so they're going to continue to outsource to the assemblers and the board makers, et cetera. So, like Han Hai and those types of players are going to still be fine.